Exploring Earth through Lego. Orchid Facts. If you're literally anywhere on Earth, the chances are pretty good that you've seen an orchid. Despite typically being associated with tropical plants, orchids can actually be found on every continent, from the Arctic Circle to the southernmost jungles, except Antarctica. Well, sort of. Technically, there are even reports of an orchid being grown in a research lab in Antarctica. They're considered an evolutionary success story in the plant world. There are about 28,000 species of orchids, and new ones are constantly being identified. So, what makes these plants so special? Their evolution shows that they have a lot of secrets, and a lot to share. Orchids are considered among the oldest known flowering plants. Scientists have dated the oldest orchid species back to 112 million years ago, which is the early Cretaceous period, when dinosaurs still walked the earth. They have such a robust and interesting evolution. If you thought that orchids would do the traditional flowering plant thing, where a little bee comes buzzing along and does the little normal pollination thing, think again. In nearly all cases, an orchid species and its specific pollinator evolved together. And they use some intricate strategies when it comes to attracting their pollinators and having them do their bidding. While they commonly use nectar to entice a pollinator, they also utilize color, shape, or fragrance, and in some cases, mimic flowers of other plants. Different species also regulate their bloom times based on weather and pollinator activity. Okay, so let's talk about some of the very trickster-like adaptations these plants have evolved for their success. If the pollinator is a hummingbird or a butterfly, the orchids tend to have red, orange, or pink tubular flowers and yellow blotchy patterns that mimic the anthers and pollen of other plants that these nectar lovers tend to visit. Unfortunately for them, they got tricked, duped, suckered. This mimicry got them to come to the flower and go for the nectar, but there wasn't any. Moth-pollinated orchid species tend to be green or white and are typically very fragrant only at night to help the night-flying insects find them. Some orchids are pollinated by flies or carrion beetles, and those orchids come in browns and fleshy reds. Yes, fleshy, and they emit the odor of rotting meat. Ooh. The stench is absolutely repugnant. Bucket orchids, as the name implies, have an interesting design that actually forms an elaborate bucket trap for their pollinators. Just above the lip of the flower, there is a rounded pad with oils that the male iridescent euglycine bean rubs on to get the fragrant oils into sacs on its back legs to court females. But the surface is slippery, and the bees often lose their footing and fall into the liquid below. Do the bees want to drown? Of course not. So they squeeze through a narrow opening at the base of the lip. As they push through, its back scrapes across the column, and 2 pollinia are deposited conveniently on its back. Then the bee dries itself off, totally forgets its experience, and flies off to another flower to repeat the process, and coincidentally deposit the pollinia onto the female part of the flower. If you weren't impressed by the ingenuity of a flower that could create a life or death trap for its pollinators, let's talk about how some orchid flowers will bamboozle their pollinators, pretending to be female insects by mimicking their appearance or scent. In a species of European orchid, the flowers have a labellum that looks similar to the body of a female wasp or bee. It has the right shape, colors, and hairs. They also have a scent that is surprisingly similar to the pheromones produced by receptive females. All in all, sounds like a male bee or wasp has a good thing going. So he lands on the flower, grabs the labellum, and tries to copulate with it. Honestly, no idea if he realizes he's getting it on with an imposter, but at the end of it, he's going to have a pollinia on his head that he'll take to the next flower he visits. Other orchids produce flowers that resemble the males of specific territorial bees or wasps. Their pollinators see those and get mad. The pollinators go on the defensive. They see them as competitors, so they attack the flower. And of course, this was all part of the plan. The flower is shaped in a way so that the attacking insect is placed in contact with the pollinia or stigma. So you've seen how orchids have very specifically evolved alongside specific pollinators. Imagine how disastrous it'd be if their pollinators went extinct. Unfortunately, you don't have to imagine very hard. The vanilla orchid, the only orchid that produces an edible fruit, is native to Mexico and is pollinated by the nearly extinct Melipona bee. The Mexican Melipona bee is the only bee on Earth that's known to be capable of pollinating the vanilla orchid naturally, and unfortunately, their numbers are dwindling. These unique bees are threatened with extinction due to deforestation, pesticides, and the fact that Mayan beekeepers have mostly stopped passing down their beekeeping methods. These are stingless bees that require much different care from other bees. As if all of that wasn't enough to make the situation daunting and difficult, the vanilla orchid flower blooms only for a single day every year, and they're only open for a few hours. Talk about a short window of time. As a result, vanilla orchids that grow in the wild are in danger of becoming extinct, and those which are grown across the globe for vanilla must be meticulously hand-pollinated. As you can imagine, this is a delicate and laborious process, and it should also explain why vanilla is the second most expensive spice in the world. Madagascar is the world's leading producer of vanilla, and prices can be as much as $600 per pound. I guess by this point, humans have adapted to become the pollinators of the vanilla orchid. Without us, they'll likely go extinct. Without them, we get no vanilla for all of our baking needs. As for the bees, hopefully the conservation efforts in place will help boost their population. If you like this video, please like, subscribe, and comment. I'd love to know what your favorite orchid is. Make sure you hit the bell so you can see more content like this. See you next time!